Good morning. Shakespeare is dead. Longfellow is mouldering in his grave. Rabbie Burns is long gone, and to tell you the truth, I don't feel so good myself this morning. Very appropriate that I'm going to tackle another complication on PharmaCare. They're up to something now. We're going to try and find out what they're up to in the terms of changing the system on prescription dispensing fees, fees for service. You know, the net effect will be, I think, perhaps, that certain prescription drugs, the cheaper ones will come dearer, and the dearer ones will come cheaper. And I've got three people working on this for me this morning. Frank Archer, BC something or other of the Pharmacists Society. Isn't that right, Frank, baby?
Close enough.
And the PharmaCare kid himself, Pat Tidball, the manager of the highly successful, I suppose,
Thank you.
PharmaCare. But what we're going to do first this morning is we're going to turn the whole thing over to Brian Coxford. And he's going to try and set the stage, and you're going to make it perfectly clear and lucid to us what is happening nowadays for those on PharmaCare and those not on PharmaCare as far as the cost of their drugs, their life-saving drugs, or their waste-of-money drugs is concerned.
Jack, the actual fee-for-service formula actually went into effect last Monday in the 1,250 pharmacists across BC. We'll take a look at some of the prices. It's against the law in BC for drugstores to charge its customers more for drugs than the store would pay the manufacturer. For example, if the drugstore paid $10, so would the customer. Where the pharmacy makes its money is on the dispensing fee, the cost it incurs for making up the ointments and doctor's prescriptions for the customer. In the case of the lower-cost drugs, the dispensing fee has always been around the $3 mark for most stores. And for higher-cost drugs, 40% of the stores have used a sliding scale formula, with the average for both formulas at about $3.50. Take, for example, such higher-priced drugs as Naprozin, Motrin, Inderal, Exdol, and Lasix. The dispensing fee prior to last week's introduction of the new provincial formula at the Shoppers Drug Mart on West 4th for these drugs ranged on a sliding scale from $3.49 to $3.89. Under the new formula, there will be a set fee of $3.45. The drugstore could charge as much as $3.98. For lower-priced drugs such as Seconal, Hydrodiarol, and Novopoxide, and again, as in the case of the higher-priced drugs using the standard-sized prescription, the Shoppers Drug Store used to charge an across-the-board dispensing fee of $2.99. The new dispensing fee, as in the case of the higher-priced drugs, will be $3.45. The pharmacist at the store says the new PharmaCare formula is actually an average of its old fees.
A little bit. We've averaged our prices over the last while, and we know that what the average cost was. So now that we're using one fee, we're using that average, so that in all respects, we're going to end up with the same amount of profit, the same coverage for expenses, etc.
Within just a few cents or so.
That's right, yes. Yep.
Who's going to save?
The person under this new system that will save are the person who are on expensive drugs.
Where the pharmacist can save the customer is by using the generic equivalent of the brand name drug. They look the same and are the same, just a different label.
Well, they're exactly the same. It's just a different company making them, that's all.
Comparison, perhaps, Kleenex versus no-name tissue.
That's a very good example, yes.
Could you give us an example?
Well, you take Lasix and apofurosemide. They're exactly the same drug. There's no difference.
Lasix being the brand name.
Lasix is the brand name of Host, and furosemide is a generic name put out by Apotex, and we use Apotex because we can buy those at the best price. So that we can dispense apofurosemide when a person brings in a Lasix prescription, and they can save, well, it would cost them $1.04 for 100 of the apo, as compared to $5.67 for 100 of the Lasix.
Okay, now what's different this Monday compared to last Monday as far as birth control pills?
Unfortunately, the girl who's buying 1 month at a time is going to pay more because we're now charging the standard fee on birth control pills. However, we suggest that they, in all cases now, that they buy 3 months, and then they pay the same fee for 3 months. Whereas if they pay the one fee on 1 month, it's going to cost them quite a bit more. For instance, this used to be $3.29. Now it's $5.45 for 1 month. But 3 months, she's going to get it for $9.45. So in effect, it's less.
To carry the comparison a step further, and not to use the shopper's drug comparison by itself, here's how you'd fare at Regency Pharmacy. The old fee here is the same as the maximum allowed under the new provincial formula, $3.98 dispensing fee for all prescriptions. Over at London Drugs, the pharmacists prior to the introduction of the new provincial formula were charging a dispensing fee of $2.95 to $3.59. Their new fee is lower than the other major chains at $3.20 for all prescriptions. Jack, this new fee-for-service formula, I guess, is designed to try and lower the cost, the end price of the higher-cost drugs to the consumer. And most drugstores, perhaps 99% of them, are good corporate citizens and charge, a very fair fee to their customers. But we have an example of one druggist in New Westminster, and perhaps this is what the formula is designed to protect against. It involved a case of a chronic heart patient who went into the store to get a 6-month supply of a drug. The cost of the drug was $65. The druggist passed that cost on to the customer. But the final price for that drug, including the dispensing fee, was $175. So the dispensing fee, if you subtract the cost of the drug, would have been $110 for this particular drug for this chronic heart patient. We tried to contact that druggist. We couldn't. He's in Hawaii.
Listen, let's take that right now. Take that extravagant example. Are you telling me, as I understand from Brian, and I'm talking to Pat Tidball, manager of PharmaCare, and Frank Archer of the BC Pharmacists Society, that as of now, on that $65 drug, I can only be charged an average dispensing fee for that particular drugstore is probably $3.45 or thereabout.
That's right, absolutely.
Is this a new piece of clout you've brought in by legislation?
This is an enforcement of a policy which we negotiated with the pharmacists of this province over 2 years ago. And it was because of examples which are, the one given by Brian is an extreme, but it was because of examples like that that we worked with the pharmacists to reach a point where we can enforce the single fee within a pharmacy.
How do you enforce the single fee within a pharmacy? Supposing I just go about my merry way and I charge the $50. For instance, one of these days I will undoubtedly need cimetidine.
Undoubtedly.
You know, for a stomach ulcer, bound to need it. And cimetidine, 300 something or other, or 300 milligram, costs $76.50. Are you telling me that I, a free enterprise pharmacist, can't charge a $50 dispensing fee if I want to?
Well, that's where I'd like to correct Pat. The pharmacist can charge a $50 fee if he likes, but he's unlikely to, since if the patient sends the claim in to PharmaCare for the reimbursement, PharmaCare is not likely to reimburse on the basis of $50. So that's a great disincentive for a pharmacist to charge $50. But in fact, there's nothing to prevent a pharmacist from charging you $50.
We have a dispute right away between you two gentlemen. You said, Pat Tidball, that you are presently in the stage of enforcing a policy negotiated with the Pharmacists Society 2 years ago, whereby there will be a standard dispensing fee for all things dispensed. Does that mean for PharmaCare only? Whereas the guy who might have $1 like myself, if I, can be charged anything?
Well, it depends on what you mean by the person eligible for PharmaCare. We can control on a weekly basis what fees we pay to any pharmacy on the fully paid side of PharmaCare. On the universal side, which covers the majority of the population, we wouldn't have any mechanism of control until you submitted your prescription receipts for reimbursement. And at that time, if someone had charged you a $50 fee, we would first notify the pharmacist to give him an opportunity to give you your money back. And at the same time, we would reduce the amount of your claim.
And if he did not give me my money back?
We would, I don't really anticipate this is ever happening, Jack, but if it did, we wouldn't hesitate to cancel his agreement with PharmaCare.
That is the clout you have.
That's right.
You're telling me that if I was charged a $50 dispensing fee for cimetidine to cure the stomach ulcers I amazingly do not have, that you would, on my behalf, and I'm merely a universal, I'm not an old age pensioner PharmaCare, you'd go to him and say, give Webster back $47 and charge him $345, or we'll wipe you out of PharmaCare.
Yeah, well, PharmaCare is a voluntary
Wipe you
program.
out of the...
We wouldn't interfere with this practice of pharmacy. We just wouldn't accept any more claims from him, which is the same thing.
In other words, you'd no longer, old people on PharmaCare could no longer go to him and get service.
That's right.
Now, this is an intriguing point because we've got a dichotomy at once between each of you.
Not exactly.
Damn
Not exactly.
close to it.
Well, maybe it's a difference in principle. I never stated that the pharmacist would be charging $50. I said that he had the ability to, but he's unlikely to charge that $50.
So all we've got is a gentleman's agreement that pharmacists from here on in, under PharmaCare, or for that matter for private patients, because we all come under the universal plan to get rebates at a certain extent from PharmaCare.
Eventually.
You're telling me that you have a gentleman's agreement that there will be an average dispensing fee charged.
Oh, it's more than a gentleman's agreement. Going back to that $50 dispensing fee, it's unlikely a pharmacist would ever put that on now, because it's that type of person who, on the 1st of January, would be gathering all the receipts up and sending them into PharmaCare. I mean, that would quickly come to the attention of PharmaCare that a $50 fee had been charged, and then they would not reimburse on that basis.
Now, I don't want to nag. You have some clout. You can say, if you don't play ball with me, we'll wipe you out as a PharmaCare drugstore.
Right.
And your position is, under your regulations, that a drugstore may establish an average dispensing fee, and that is all it can charge as a fee for service.
It's all that we will reimburse, Jack.
In effect, all it can charge, because if you turn around and say, I'm going to take away your PharmaCare, the guy's going to lose a large chunk of his business.
In most cases, it'd be
And you
close to
tell me,
50%.
Frank, that an average dispensing fee is an agreement, but he doesn't have to keep it if he doesn't want to.
Well, there's nothing signed, but there are so many things that would prevent the pharmacist from breaking the agreement that for all practical purposes, that's exactly what will happen. He'll have one dispensing fee to PharmaCare and that same fee to you when you come in off the street with your prescription.
And he can't vary them.
He could, but he won't.
You mean it's an ethical thing?
No, it's more an economic thing.
Well, how do I know what he's going to charge me?
You've got it
Oh, it's on my
written
receipt.
on your receipt, yes.
So the only guy he can rip off is the American tourist.
Or somebody he knows darn well isn't going to be claiming to
Claiming
PharmaCare.
PharmaCare.
But that's too complicated. You know, he'd spend more time, having dossiers on people who he knew weren't going to.
Well, do I have to take a break? I shall be back to Mrs. Archer of the Pharmacists Society and Master Tidball of PharmaCare in 2 minutes. Not for me to nag, but on your initial announcements, I had presumed, perhaps skimpy reporting, that the dispensing fee was going to be the same everywhere. Not true. What is the high and low ratio, high and low outside rates for dispensing fees, Frank? You know that one.
Yeah, the average is right now. We haven't got any current data, but the average is.
Yes, we do. It's 347.
Well, that's on the prior to 15th of
December.
January. Yeah.
Gentlemen, I didn't ask you the average.
No.
I said, what's the high and what's the low?
90% of the pharmacies have dispensing fees between $3 and $4. We know that for sure. And that's on data prior to the 15th of January. We don't have any data now that they've had all standardized a fee within each pharmacy.
Between $3 and $4.
Right.
That's the low and the high.
To be absolutely precise, Jack, the lowest fee that we're aware of is $2.79 on average, and the highest is $3.99.
$3.99 on average.
Yeah, but that $2.79 is a small store. I quite honestly don't understand how we can get by on a $2.79 fee.
$3.99 the average. Now, but now they have all settled at the average of around $3.47, between $3.20 and $3.60. Is that right?
Most of them are in that range, sure. There's the odd store
Well,
that's
what's
charging.
all the fuss about? I mean, what's so exciting about your announcement?
I think what it
so
is
exciting
that
about your performance here this morning that it should make me realize that things are going to be better for
we're
me?
working for you. We're trying.
But what are you doing that's good for me?
If you were buying cimetidine for your ulcer, which you don't have, at $76.50 drug cost, the pharmacist is selling that to you at his cost. He's merely trading dollars.
But it's been like that for a long while, has it not? How long has it been?
Well, it was, but up until the 15th of January, the pharmacist, in many cases, too many cases, was charging $4.50, $5, and $6 as a dispensing fee on that type of drug cost. And what we've done is work together with the pharmacists and government to bring down the price of a high-cost medication to you, the consumer, sir.
Okay, we'll just take the example of cimetidine. $76.50 for 300 milligrams cimetidine's prescription charge, $3.47. All there for the world to see.
Right.
All there for you to check.
Right.
So that you can't get away with overcharging me. But on the other hand, when I take my 1 tablet of diazepam daily for relief of tension, the damn diazepam only costs 35 cents.
Right.
But I get the same dispensing fee of $3.47.
Right.
So therefore my cheaper drugs get a little bit dearer, but my dearer drugs get considerably cheaper.
Okay,
Is that
if
right?
I could interject. The concern that we had with PharmaCare was that many stores were charging that $3.47 fee on a 35-cent drug cost. In other words, they accepted the fee-for-service concept as long as the drug price was considerably low. Once they had to dispense a cimetidine-type product, then they wanted to go up with the dispensing fee. And the only justification for a fee-for-service dispensing fee is that it lowers the price of higher-cost medications. So all we were ending up with in PharmaCare were the disadvantages of the system, none of the advantages.
I've got that. Now, what difference does it make to the overall revenue or financial prospects of drugstores, this averaging of dispensing fees?
It should make no difference whatsoever. They'll get the same amount of dispensing fees in. It's just that they'll, in some stores, they will get a little less on the more expensive medication, a little more on the cheaper medication.
So therefore, the tip for the drug buyer, be they PharmaCare, complete PharmaCare or universal plan, is to check the receipt
Yes?
to make sure that on each item, on each occasion, they are charged the same dispensing fee in that drugstore.
Right.
Right.
So whether it's 35 cents or $350, it should be $3, in this case, the average of $3.47.
Yeah. That fee will vary between stores, Jack, depending on the type of service and the competitive factors and everything else.
From about $3 to $3.60.
Yep.
Or thereabouts. But
About
that's really what we've learned this morning. That from now on, the dispensing fee will be identical in that drugstore, in the $3.47 range,
Within
for
that.
whatever I get. And you, acting on my behalf, if I do get ripped off by the one pharmacist in a million who might be tempted to, will say, don't do that, give me his money back, or we'll pull out your PharmaCare facilities.
Right.
Because PharmaCare has been the greatest bonanza for pharmacists since the Yukon Gold Strike, hasn't it?
Well, for some it hasn't been too bad. But let me correct you. The range is probably between $3 and $4, not $3 and $3.45.
But it will be shown there. On every
It will be
occasion in
shown.
that drugstore, it will be the same amount.
That's right. That's right. Since the 1st of April, '77, the dispensing fee has been disclosed on the prescription receipt. And as far as we know, it's the only place in North America this occurs. Now, the idea of this was that
Say that again?
it's the only place in North America we know of where the dispensing fee is disclosed on the receipt.
And therefore, that's his cost of the drug that shows. His cost plus the dispensing fee.
Yep.
That's his. How do you know he charges you his cost?
How do we know in
Yeah.
PharmaCare?
Yeah.
Well, we have you know, roughly 6 million claims a year coming in. We have wholesale records, we have manufacturers' price lists, we know what the average fee charged within any region is for any given drug, and we know what charge the pharmacist makes.
Back to cimetidine, this new so-called miracle drug. Therefore, everybody more or less will be charged $76.50 or thereabouts for the quantity of cimetidine.
Right. Yep.
Because you keep a close eye on the actual cost of drugs.
We monitored monthly. We audit all stores in the province on a routine basis. So I would say we probably get fantastic cooperation from the vast majority of pharmacists who do charge us their cost.
And the pharmacists are very happy with PharmaCare.
The majority of them are very happy with it, yes. There's nothing to be unhappy about, really.
Yeah, because no bad debts, no accounts, no nothing.
Well, the people covered by PharmaCare, that's quite true.
What proportion of customers are covered by the PharmaCare payments?
What is it, about 20%? But they use about 40% of the prescriptions. 20% of the population, 40% of the prescriptions.
Well, they're the older people, aren't they?
Yeah,
Primarily the older people, and they account for about 12% of the total population. There's 278,000 people over the age of 65 in this province.
Have you ever done a study on how much the doctors overwrite prescriptions and automatically renew them every year or every month until people go wingy-dingy on Valium and whatnot?
Well,
Have you ever looked at that? Can you look at that?
we can with the College of Physicians. You know, for a government agency, which is really a payment agency, to start acting like a regulatory board, I would like to avoid it, but we do work very closely with the College of Physicians and Surgeons. If we notice anything that looks, we don't make any judgment on it, but if we notice anything that appears to be out of line, we refer it to Dr. Hutchison, the registrar of the college.
You mean you can call up the computer and think, my God, that guy's subscribed 19,522,000 Valium.
Yeah. What we would do is we would work with the registrar of the College of Physicians and the registrar of the College of Pharmacists and
Okay.
let them decide whether it's inappropriate.
I've disposed of that as best I can.
Okay.
Nobody understands it.
That's all right.
We've tried to
I
get the
sometimes
message
don't
across.
myself.
What about the money-back PharmaCare claim scheme? How is it going these days? And when must the forms be in so we can get a cash refund? What is the cash refund again? I
It's
forget.
80% of expenses which exceed $100 in the previous calendar year.
In a calendar
In a
year.
calendar year.
If I spend $100, I get $80 back.
No, if you spend $100, that's all your expense. If you spend $150, you would get $40 back. It's 80% of the expenses over $100.
Funny how quickly we forget, isn't it?
Yes.
That program actually, Jack, is working extremely well. We were running at an average of 300 claims a week during December, and we're hitting 1,000 claims a day during January.
Because the calendar year has
Because
ended.
the calendar year is ended.
Okay, if I spend $100 worth of drugs, I get nothing. If I spend $200 worth of drugs, I get a check for $80 from you.
That's right.
And I don't have to keep them. I can send them in during the calendar year.
As soon as you go over the $100, you can send them in.
If I don't make my claim by a certain date, do I lose my refund for last year?
You lose it if you don't make the claim by the 31st of March in the year following. In
I
other
must claim by the 31st of March the year following, or I use my
You
lose my 80% over $100 back
Right.
again.
I really doubt whether there are too many people that have an expense exceeding $100 that are not aware of the program now.
Well, as you may have gathered, I'm not at my most lively this morning. I think I may have given you a gentleman the Russian flu, but you've got access to drugs. And
Sure, I can go and see Frank's medicine shop.
that's right, no problem. So we'll take telephone calls.
All right.
And Pat, you can handle the phone calls. And you don't want any phone calls about Metamucil.
Preferably not.
That's not covered, isn't that right?
That is not covered.
Pay for the counting of the Lomotil and the Librium because I'm paying for that expertise.
Well, you're buying, Frank will tell you, you're buying his professional knowledge, his expertise, his supervision of your drug use.
Right.
You pay $3.45 for each one of them, or thereabouts.
But would you make that very clear?
Yes, if there are 10 prescriptions, 10 items in the one prescription, you pay 10 times the fee for service.
Very
Right.
good. So, Jack, I'll go back and apologize to the chemist.
Thank you very much.
But as far as the elderly people are concerned, they shouldn't be confused because PharmaCare pays for their prescriptions directly.
But the elderly person should be concerned.
Yes, but they shouldn't be confused about what
No.
they don't pay because they don't
That's
pay it.
one of the things that we have a problem with is getting people to sign the receipt that the pharmacist gives them and take it with them.
Let's get into that caper. What do you mean they shouldn't be confused, but they shouldn't be concerned?
They should be
They
concerned.
should be concerned.
Well, sure, it's their tax
Here
dollars
is
they're paying
is this a PharmaCare receipt?
That's a PharmaCare, if that's assuming that you were over the age of 65.
Yeah.
And that's exactly the way the pharmacist would make out the claim to PharmaCare.
And I've got to sign this
And you should sign that
at the time.
at the time you're given
Filled in.
Right?
They never are filled in.
Well, no, I disagree with you. Most of the time they are filled in. There's a bigger percentage of the time where the patient doesn't want it because it doesn't represent a cost to them. Now, I've stood in pharmacies and wondered why they've got a whole box full of blank receipts or filled in receipts.
Talk about that in a minute with Pat Tidball of PharmaCare and Frank Archer of the Pharmacists Society.
Well, I would like them to know how much the government is putting out on their behalf.
All right, how much is the government putting out on behalf of people on PharmaCare, not counting the refunds?
About $30 million.
Is that the cost of PharmaCare a year now?
That's the cost of PharmaCare.
What did you start at?
About 18 to 20 million.
How many years ago is that?
1974. It's 5 full years.
5 full years. We're now up to $30 million.
Right.
Now, when I go in to get my PharmaCare over 65 and they present me with this thing, should it be all filled in?
It should all be filled out,
And I've got to sign it.
and you should sign it. You should
Doesn't
get-
that drive the pharmacist crazy, having to fill these things out every time?
He has to fill them out in any event.
I thought they did them at the end of the day.
Some do. Some sort of hoard them up until after 9 o'clock and then they close the store and do the forms.
Yeah, I should imagine so. And it's okay for people to sign these blank?
There's no problem with it, but if they object to signing the form blank, naturally they can ask the pharmacist to fill it in.
Because you're going to review the form anyway.
We're going to review the form. We routinely review it, and if we notice that the pharmacist has always signed it, not the patient, then we contact the pharmacist.
And say, try and get the poor old dears to sign
Sure.
it.
Yep.
And they don't want it.
Well, they don't mind signing it. They don't want to keep it. In fact, in many cases, I don't think they want to sign it either.
No, it's free from the government.
Yeah.
Everything's free.
Everything is free.
Go ahead, please.
Yes, good morning. I take 4 drugs right now. I take Inderal, Isoderl, nitroglycerin, and diazepam.
How are you feeling?
And there's a dispensing fee for each one. Now, I am not on PharmaCare. I'm on a disability pension, and I've applied for PharmaCare, and they said you can't have it unless you're on welfare. Now, why can you not have it if you're not 65? Why do you have to be on welfare if you're to
I'm
get
sorry,
it?
sir. Are you over the age of 65?
No, I'm in my 50s.
Well, PharmaCare Plan A is meant for the individual only over the age of 65. We also pay on a 100% basis to the pharmacist for people who are resident in long-term care facilities and for those who are eligible for medical benefits receipt or medical benefits of the Ministry of Human Resources.
Is that a welfare case?
Yeah, that's what they told me. You have to be on welfare to get it, otherwise...
Well, now you said you were on a disability pension. What kind of pension are you on?
Federal.
You're on a federal pension.
Well, yeah, Canada pension.
Canada pension, that's not covered.
No.
That's not covered.
No, you're stuck.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Bye.
Well, he's not stuck. He's on, they can get 80% over the $100 back.
Oh, big deal. Well, it's better
If he's
than
taking
nothing.
those 4 drugs, Jack, he'd be over the $100.
You get a lot
And
back.
that's a heck of a lot better than it was.
Before.
Before,
Agreed.
yeah.
Agreed. Go ahead, please. Where are you?
Hello?
Yes, you, sir.
I was getting, I think the name is pronounced Napathon, N-A-P-P-O-S-Y-N.
Yes, sir.
And the bottle for the last one I paid $16 and some cents. And like you talk about filling the forms, but all I did was sign my name on a scribbler. They got the lines in there, you know.
Yes, that'd be a pharmacy that has a computerized record system.
Pardon?
That would be in a pharmacy that has a computerized record-keeping system.
Well, what's your quibble?
Well, anyhow, it was $16.75. The last time this for arthritis, these pills.
Well, you got the pills. You didn't have to pay for them, right?
Pardon? No, I didn't have to pay for them.
Right. Go ahead, please.
Oh, yes, Mr. Webster. I'm a little confused about this PharmaCare as opposed to private, arrangements that we had before. First of all, I'd like to tell you that I watch you every day, and this is the first time I've ever called, so I'm nervous. My housework suffers for you. But
Your housework suffers.
yes, because I watch you.
If you like, I'll come over and do your housework for you, too.
Bless you, I like that. What I wanted to know is that prior to this PharmaCare business, and even now, so my husband, through his work, pays into a private contribution plan, and we used to go out, buy our drugs, take the thing into the private society, and he got his money back, or 80% of it. Now, the pharmacists and the society say, oh, you've got to stick this thing onto a PharmaCare, keep it for over $100 and take it into PharmaCare, and after that, we will pay you. Now, I'm utterly confused, and I wondered if the gentleman that you have with me can tell us anything about this.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, tell her.
Okay. There's approximately half the people in the province that had private insurance on a scheme similar to the PharmaCare plan, only the deductible was $25 a year and 80% payment over that.
That's right.
Okay, however, you pay premiums.
Continuing to pay premiums still.
Pardon? All right. The decision made by government was that either you excluded everyone who had private coverage, which would have been unfair, or you included everybody in the province under the universal plan. And the adjustments made by the private insurers was to limit their financial responsibility to the $100 deductible of PharmaCare. As according to that, they will pay you 80% of your expenses between $25 and $100.
That's once a year, though, after over 100.
Over 100, then it comes to PharmaCare. Because the private insurance companies will not provide payment for anything paid by government.
Well, they're doing better than the average person.
Well, one private insurance company we know of that faced a $50,000 loss in 1976, had $1 million surplus in 1977, and as a direct result of the introduction of PharmaCare.
Yes, but the thing is that concerns me is that we're still paying.
You're still paying the premiums, ma'am, but that's something between you and your husband's employer and the private insurance company.
And that covers between 25 and 100.
Mm-hmm.
That's 75 bucks.
If the premium is the same as it was before, when it was 80% for any amount over $25.
We could take it in at any time and get the money back. Now we have to wait until we've got $100 once a year.
No, most private insurers will accept your claim from the time you get over 25 until you reach 100. And at that point, they'll advise you to forward it to PharmaCare.
Thank you, ma'am. Lost interest in that one. Victoria, go ahead, please.
Yes. I, too, am a bit nervous. First time I've ever phoned you, Jack, and I've watched you many mornings. I'm also on TAGMET, and I have been on it for...
She's what?
On Tagamet.
What's the
Tagamet.
brand name
Same
of
thing as you.
Cimetidine?
Tagamet.
Yeah.
What's Tagamet?
Cimetidine.
Cimetidine.
Yes.
I don't have a stomach ulcer,
Well,
Pat
we're
Tidball.
just getting you ready
You
for
made
it.
up this phony receipt as if I had a stomach ulcer.
I've been on it since September of 1977.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and how come it hasn't cured your bleeding ulcers?
Bleeding ulcers.
Hey?
I haven't got the typical bleeding ulcer. Mine's more in the intestinal tract.
Oh, I'm very pleased to hear that.
I was wondering if there is any ruling with the PharmaCare on how long a person can stay on drugs, say, like TAGMET.
We'll go to Frank Archer. How long do you stay on Tagamet or Taganet?
Well, I believe the manufacturer suggests that the person stay on it till the ulcer is cured. But as far as PharmaCare is concerned, there's no time limit as to the quantity or time limit on,
No,
on
you get the
submission.
doctor to write it and they'll fill it. Isn't that right, Frank and Pat?
That's right. It's the doctor that prescribes it and the pharmacist that dispenses it. And PharmaCare makes no judgment, sets no rules. We're not a regulatory agency as far as second-guessing either the medical profession or pharmacy.
Thank you. Webster, Tidball, and Archer. Pharmacist, a civil servant, and a human being. After this break.
Which is which?
$30 million business you're on now, Pat.
I
Right?
guess if you put it that way, yes. So,
How many civil servants?
we've got a staff of 36 compared to a staff of 28 5 years ago.
So you're keeping the lid on as much as you can.
Only here to help, Jack. You know that.
Go ahead, please.
Morning, Jack.
Morning.
I'd like to ask these gentlemen a question. When are they going to stop taking prescription drugs and put them on the shelves?
Oh, yes. Let's get down to that caper, Frank, baby.
I didn't hear the question. What was it? When are we going to take prescription drugs and start putting them on the shelves?
Remember you started putting things back behind the counter again so you could charge prescription fees.
Okay, no, that's a good question.
Sure is.
Okay, the philosophy behind prescription drugs is the fact that they are drugs, and they have specific uses such that it would be impossible for a person to self-diagnose and then go out and say, I need penicillin, for example. What we have is the physicians doing a diagnosis on you, determining what drugs you need, and then they write a prescription.
Frank, that's not what I'm talking about.
But that ain't what I'm talking about either. I'm talking about when you get a prescription and you go to the druggist and they tell you it's on the shelf. And this wasn't, a year ago, this wasn't so.
What we're talking about, Frank, is the fact of you have made restricted a number of items which were previously purchasable across the counter.
Oh, I see.
And now you put them behind the counter, and we presume you put up the prices or something.
No, I doubt if the prices have gone up on any of those things. The philosophy behind that was that people shouldn't just have the ability to come in and pick these things up. They're very potent, and the least they should do is to speak with the pharmacist before they purchase them.
I'm trying to think of an example.
I'm a pensioner. I'm going to the doctor, and I'm an old age pensioner, and I'm going to the doctor. I'm getting a prescription.
That's what I'm talking about.
I go to the druggist or the pharmacist, and he tells me that they're on the shelf now.
Oh, I know what it is. I know what it is. It's those, it's the things that were PharmaCare benefits about a year and a half ago that are no longer PharmaCare benefits. And the pharmacist is suggesting to the patient that they have to purchase them. They're no longer benefits of PharmaCare.
Metamucil.
Exactly.
Yeah. We would never go back on that, Jack. It's, the claims, the dollar claims to PharmaCare for over-the-counter drugs was running in excess of $5 million a year. It was probably matched by an equal amount of charges from the medical plan because people went to get a qualifying prescription. And that's totally disappeared, as has the static or the complaints.
In other words, people have switched on the advice of you-know-who to brand.
I believe I've heard that.
I still don't get at it. Why do you get a prescription for this?
Well, name an item.
Well, I can't name.
Name one. Name one.
Actually, I
Magnolax.
Pardon?
No. In the good old days, they went for Magnolax and Metamucil as prescriptions, and by wiping that out, you've wiped out both the cost of the medical visit and the cost of the...
prescriptions for PharmaCare.
Yeah. Unless you can name an item, sir, we are baffled, and we have come to the end of the road.
An item, I can name more than one, and you go back to the doctor, and he says, no, he says, that's on the whatchamacallit. You've on Medicare, he says.
What about the whatchamacallit?
Well, I think...
Medicare. But then you go to...
Come on, Frank.
Okay.
Go on in.
Okay. No, the physician can write a prescription for any drug he wishes to. PharmaCare has got the option of accepting only a certain number of drugs as their benefits. But there's nothing that says the physician can't write for a drug that PharmaCare won't pay for, and that's what they do. They write a prescription for a non-benefit drug.
Oh, but the druggist the doctor tells me...
He's wrong.
This is under PharmaCare.
He's wrong.
Yeah.
The doctor is wrong.
Well, I don't know how he comes
He's probably just off the boat from Ireland.
Sir, we do not interfere with the therapy. We don't interfere as a program with what the physician writes.
It's all right to laugh about it, but this is no laughing matter.
No, I know what you mean, but just because the doctor says it's PharmaCare doesn't mean it's a PharmaCare benefit.
That's right.
But it should be a PharmaCare.
Well, now that's a different thing.
Now, here's one that I have.
No, enough. You'll keep us going forever. Go ahead, please.
Hello.
Yes.
I'm from West Vancouver, and I would like to address this question to Mr. Tidball.
Right.
First of all, what is being done for people not on handicapped persons' income assistance? I'm speaking of a particular case, a paraplegic in a wheelchair who prefers to work, but his medical costs are between $125 and $150 a month for dressings and drugs.
And he's not on HPIA.
No, and he prefers to work. He could go on HPIA.
Mr. Tidball.
Well, I can tell you that whole area is under review right at the moment. I couldn't give you any definitive answer as to what will happen, but certainly the entire ministry is aware of that problem. And I was in a meeting last Friday in Victoria at which it was discussed.
Yeah, well, this has been discussed since August.
It's been discussed actually for about the last 2 years.
Is this a plan to extend the benefits to
well,
people who could be on HPIA but choose
it's
to work?
The problem of particularly the person who's a paraplegic who has expenses on a chronic basis,
Yeah.
which far exceed what you would face or I would face or Frank would face.
Who will announce that, the government or you?
Not me, no, it'll be up to the minister.
It'll be up to the minister. Yeah. What we've established this morning is that you've got to apply for your refunds under PharmaCare, Universal PharmaCare, by March 15.
March 31st.
March 31st, or forever hold your peace.
Right.
For last year.
For last year.
And that there's now a standard dispensing fee for each drugstore between $3 and $4, which shows on your receipt. And if he tries to rip you off, complain to you.
Yes.
Or you.
Yep.
Right?
Right.
My thanks to Pat Tidball, manager of PharmaCare, and Frank Archer, president of the BC Pharmacists Society.
Thank you.
20 seconds to close the show, Jack. Linda, voice level, please.
Hello, hello. Is that okay, Larry?
We have 20 seconds to close the show.
Okay.
20, Jack.
Premier Bennett tomorrow.
We've got Bennett, we've got lying up our sleeve in the Faris case, we've got lots of things up our sleeve. We look like having a good, exciting week. We're still working on this inquest out in Delta. Very good story. Start with Premier Bennett tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. precisely.